Hi everyone, and it's lovely to see you all back again. And today I'm with the wonderful artist Bronach Rae, who is very interesting because she's slightly different to what you might have seen before. And as we know, this is all in education. So let's dive in and find out more about Bronach. Hi, how are you?
I'm good today and I'm looking forward to this. I have no idea what's coming. It'll all be interesting now.
Yeah, well, really, we want to discuss what you're doing and how you approach it. So, how would you describe your style of your present style of art, shall we say?
Okay. I make collage art, both 2D and 3D, and I make it using photographs I've taken when I've been in the outdoors. I do a lot of long distance walking, and that's a great opportunity for me to take photographs of things and then translate them into the work that I'm doing. So, and I would say that probably every place I've ever visited, including the Fitzwilliam and various other art galleries, etc., I've always managed to steal something out of an image that I want to use. So it's not a collage in the normal sense of the word. A lot of people use pieces from magazines and make them into quite an abstract thing. I'm definitely about creating an image that doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah, they're quite beautiful. How did you start your journey into art then? Did you start very young, or did you come to this later in life?
Well, I didn't do any art after primary school because I went to a school which I suppose specialised in sciences, which I was not interested at all. And it was gradually as I grew up and became an adult, I always made things, sometimes out of necessity. So one of the first things that I used to make was I used to make knitwear for people out of my own head. And
Oh,
I earned quite well with that. And then people suggested I start as a business. I thought, I only want to do something once. I don't want to recreate anything. And I think it's just I've never been great at drawing. I did try watercolor. I find that very frustrating because I couldn't mix color well enough to get what I wanted. And then just one day I just thought, I wonder what happens if I just stick things onto things. That's because that's basically all it is. And it kind of went from there. I made collages for people, say for their birthdays, where I'd ask all their friends to give me descriptive words about them, and then I create a piece that sort of epitomized them as a personality. And then I gradually went on to, I think the biggest turning point for me was when I got an iPhone with a camera, because then I could go out and I could take photographs of things that I wanted rather than trying to search for them elsewhere. And I think that was a great breakthrough. And also being able to buy a 6-color printer. So it had far more subtlety than a normal printer, which means I could get the shades of the objects that I had photographed.
yeah. Sounds fascinating. Sounds
It,
like a progression too, and you obviously have enthusiasm for this.
yes.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work, obviously, and it's very well. What I've seen is quite beautiful, and it does um engage with you. It draws you in because you want to work it out. You want to see what's
Mm.
there. It's very interesting. So behind you, Brona, have you got some work behind you?
I've got several pieces by me. One, I want to move things. Um, I'll show you a 2D piece first. Okay, that's one I did quite recently. It's called Autumn Leaves. And this is taken for a whole variety of images that I've taken when I've been in the outdoors. This actually is not from the outdoors. This is a bird that was on one of my coasters in the house. I just thought, he just fits perfectly. And this is not a tree, but is a piece of twig that I actually have. I tend to save everything I've got. So if you saw my other stuff, you'd notice that some of the things that I use are actually in my own house as well. So I make quite a thing of that. So that's quite a recent one. And that's a 2D piece. And I would cut, people think to say to me, are you mad? There's nothing more therapeutic than sitting and cutting something like this. I've been doing it today, and I'm cutting out some pieces like that. And I just use, people say, you must use a scalpel or something, some technical piece. And all I use is that, pair of scissors, and the paper, and I literally just cut. Okay? So that is the 3D piece. Okay? And then during lockdown, I had more time on my hands. I also did a lot more walking. And I thought, I wonder, is it possible to make use of all the bits that I've left over? Because I generate a lot of
Oh,
paper, as you can
yeah.
imagine. And so, like today, I've got a whole lot of stuff here that I will reuse. But what I decided to do was work out whether I could do anything 3D. And this is an example of a 3D piece, okay,
Oh,
that
yeah.
is made entirely from what was left over from bits from cuttings that I made 2D pieces from. And this has probably got 6 layers of paper, and I use a mug, believe it or not, one of these. There I am.
Oh,
So there we are. This is my mold, okay? And I use that, and I literally wrap layer upon layer upon layer. So people say to me, is it papier mâché? No, it isn't. It's much thinner than that. I couldn't even tell you how thin it is. And then I get the wonderful opportunity of doing what I like with this one. Has actually got tissue paper, and then these images put on top of it.
it's beautiful. So there's a lot of intense work, but also a lot of hours that goes into creating these objects.
I think it does. I mean, I've had people come one time to look at the studio, and there was a piece up there. It's a big piece of a bluebell wood, and they said to me, "How long did it take?" She said, "How many pieces are on there?" And I counted how many pieces are. There are 365 pieces of imagery that went on that particular collage, and that did take quite a while. But actually, it's the thinking time,
Yes.
and the layout. So, you know, I'll have taken a photograph thing. I have no idea what I'm going to use it for when I first take it. And then eventually that thought would begin to come. So by the time I've cut everything out, and that would be, I'll have drawn those images from multiple photographs, I then know exactly what I'm going to do, because I will have laid it on the canvas, because I paint the canvas beforehand, because I like to have I quite like a dark background because I think it's more dramatic. So I will paint the canvas, and then I will lay all the pieces out I've got, photograph them, take them away and look at them elsewhere and think, and then I'll come back and maybe move things a fraction. Then when it comes to actually putting them on the canvas, half an hour's work, some PVA, a brush, and just I know exactly what I'm going to get at the end. And that is it, really.
Yeah. I know there's lots of different methods of working. Some people just like to get in and move it all around until it's itself. But I've met artists similar to you, where a lot of it goes on in the head and the imagination first, a lot of planning, sitting, staring into space, or like you say, at the objects and or the pictures, and then coming together, and then that final crash of activity brings it all together, and people are in awe. Either way,
I think they are. I mean, people, you know, sometimes question maybe how much you price something, and you know, people say, how long did it take you? And I would say half an hour to stick it on, and 6 weeks to get this far, if you understand, because I like all my pieces to have a story.
Yeah,
you know, I think, and something a little bit different in there. You know, some of the pieces I've done have been quite political, even though they don't look it. And then you look closer, you think, oh, what's that? So I want people have to come up close to see what's actually going on. And I think looking back, a lot of my work is influenced by the books I've read, I think.
Yeah.
You know, the ability to imagine a scene is there from the amount of literature that I've consumed over the years. I think that helps. Yes.
Well, you can't help but draw on all your experiences and your emotions, and I think it's wonderful. And the other thing is, have you had a role model? Has anybody influenced you? Did you study anybody who's done something similar?
No. I'm sure I have been influenced by the certain artists that I like. I love John Craxton, and I've been recently to see an exhibition of his in Chichester, and I did steal the corner of some of his pictures because there's some great trees and branches and stuff that I like it. But I think maybe looking at illustrations, again, book illustrations, anything to do with nature is probably what I'm most drawn to. So I like looking at botanic books with botany and looking at those. And mostly for me, it's about shape and structure and creating an atmosphere. But I can't say that I've directly been influenced by it, because people say, I've never seen anybody do this. Nobody does. This is the thing. But I cannot be the first person who's done it, because that wouldn't be true in any, you know, the amount of history there is as far as art's concerned.
but
But
it
I've
is
not made
rare.
else.
Your style is rare. So where are you showing your work? And are you in art galleries? Do you
Well,
your own gallery, your own home?
I've shown in the past with the group. I used to belong to a group called Colony, which is now disbanded, and we showed regularly with them. But I show now with my husband Simon Mills and his artist friend Philip Richardson, who's a really good artist as well. And we tend to show together, and we've shown a couple of times recently down at the Fish Slab in Whitstable. It's quite difficult, to be honest, to get a gallery at the moment. I think the whole selling of art situation is changing dramatically, and I'm not great. I don't understand why people buy art online. That's a mystery to me. You can edit that if you need to.
Yeah, I know. I'll keep that in because I totally agree. You can't see, touch, feel it, smell it.
No, and I think also as well, that especially with the 3D pieces, people, when I put them in galleries, you're like, oh, can I touch it? Yeah, pick it up, do whatever you want with it. It won't break. And that intriguing that they can pick up a piece of art and look at it. And I've sold quite a few by saying to people, just have a look, see what you think. And then they always want to know the process, etc., etc. But they always say I could never do that, which is probably good for me. So I've kind of got I've cornered the market there.
I think the thing with online sales though is there is a market, there is an audience who are just looking for decorative pieces, and there are others who want to collect unusual artwork. Look for their price range, etc. So I think there are different markets, different audiences that people who sell online can reach that you don't reach in a gallery, because they are limited in the sense that people have to walk through the door.
They do.
Some galleries are a little bit intimidating. I'm very.
I think it's you have to be known to start with. It's a very difficult thing to try and be known without selling your soul to the devil. I mean, we always take part in open studios, and I find that's a wonderful way of connecting with people who might want to buy your work, because they can see everything that's there. They can see part of the process. I have a little plan in my mind that I'm going to ask people to participate in some of the work that I'm doing, because I have done workshops for art societies and projects in schools as well with children, which have been absolutely fantastic. Those collaborative pieces are just unbelievable. I've got a great one in the house that I'm hoping that when we have open studios this year that people will come and see, because there are people that were involved in it in the past. So I say, it's at home now, come and see it, because it's just been sidelined and put to one side. I love doing collaborative work. I love the whole buzz of meeting people, because I think with art, they're not just buying the piece, they're buying you as well. And I think that's a really important thing to realise as well, that they want to know, say, oh yes, I've met. I mean, I'm not famous enough for that to happen, but for them to say, yeah, I've met, I know the artist, I've been in their house. So, I've been upstairs in their bedroom and looked at the stuff that's up there. So that's all about relationship for me. And I make what I make, not with anyone in mind, but just because it pleases me.
Yeah, that's lovely. I'd like to do that. That's where I'm heading, because I've always done work on commission. So most people find quite daunting, and it means I have very little of my own time to explore. So that's where I'm at now, catching up with you. So that's interesting, because there is a whole generation of children coming up that may be looking at a digital life, an online life, it's a cyber world. It's good to know that children can have access to the 3D aspect of art and creativity, and to meet artists like yourself. So that's invaluable.
I had such fun. I worked with Luton Primary School with their age year 8, year 7 and 8, and we did a piece that was 8 foot by 8 foot of all their houses. I'd explored the whole catchment area of the school, so they had to make all their houses. They were all cut out, and we did trees and cars and bicycles and you name it. It was a huge piece, and they would come every day. I'd put it out outside the classroom in the study hall, and the kids would come, look, that's my bit there, and there's my cat on your roof, because my cat goes on your. It was just wonderful. Nothing ever happened with that piece. I was so disappointed that it wasn't put on public display, because they all wanted their parents to see it.
Yes,
It was
yeah.
beautiful piece of work.
Well, it's
And
a community work, isn't it? There's a history there as well.
Yeah.
History.
And it was something that they could all do. It didn't require that you had to be able to paint or have any specific skill. I think the interesting thing for me, because it was not long after lockdown, was that I had to reteach the children how to use scissors, because they'd lost that manual skill, because they hadn't been doing it. But they absolutely loved it. But I think the funding for people to come in and do things in schools now is not there, unfortunately. So, I love that 1 week in January I'd go in and do this, and they'd say you've got 56 children to deal with in the next 7 days. Thankfully I didn't have to be there for eternity. It's a different matter, isn't it?
I was my career as a teacher, and for adults, but post compulsory. But I started off going into my own children's schools and doing activities such as that. And, and it was a case of, oh, look, we've got somebody coming in, let's put the 3 classes together.
Exactly. I mean, my other part of my career, which also allowed me to think so far out of the box, was I worked for a national charity called Fairbridge, and I delivered everything from yoga to abseiling, and a lot of things. You had to be really spontaneous and really creative to engage teenagers who don't want to be engaged in anything. I even at one stage made a box, and all it said on it, painted it all, and it said "Think outside" on the top. And they'd open and go, "Miss, there ain't nothing there." I go, "Yes, it's a think outside the box." So, and I still have that, and it's a lovely reminder that you can approach learning in so many different ways and make it fun.
Yes, yeah, and fun is part of it, isn't it? Some artists are very angst, but most are joyful or meditative in what they're doing. But it brings to mind a lot of the cutting out you're talking about is something that all children do. They all search out for a pair of scissors and want to cut up a magazine. And from a teacher's point of view, from an early years specialism, you're looking at developing the skills of using the thumb and the fingers together and pressure to cut to get that dexterity of the hand in preparation for writing skills and painting skills. And I don't think people realise that painting using paintbrushes is actually, and you need some manipulation of the wrist and the fingers and the thumb to be able to hold a brush, get those fine lines that children seek. But you're an inspiration then, because children can easily access your work. So could older people, couldn't they, in care homes? So do you give talks? Do you see yourself taking this further and perhaps teaching on a more formal level?
Well, I've done quite a few workshops with a wide variety of societies. I've worked with Age UK. That was probably my most challenging thing that I did, working with a group that had dementia. That was very, very challenging. Probably for me, they're probably fine with it. And I've done some work with the Rochester and West Kent Art Society and various other. And I did one Zoom during lockdown. I did one Zoom demonstration of making a bowl. And somebody said it was like, if you remember that ad that used to be on the television way back 100 years ago, where the pottery thing was going on, people going, it was so mesmerizing, but I found it quite difficult. Do you remember it? Yeah. And people said like that, because I was just going, and it was a bit Blue Peter, and here's one because I couldn't do it from scratch. I mean, people every now and again have said to me, would you do this in your house? And I've just never got my act together to actually do it. But most people, when they see the level of commitment that's involved, are quite daunted. But I have done pieces with, I think it was Rochester and West Kent. We did 2 on the night, and it was just, and people were given loads of things to cut out, and they could go and they could put, there was 2 particular pieces they could work on. They could put one piece on one thing, and they could not see it beforehand, take a photograph or anything else, and it was very much going up, and you just place it. So, and then the next person coming on maybe nearly obliterate your bit that you just put on. But they turned out absolutely fantastically, and we did auction them for charity, and they were bought, and people were so pleased to have been part of that. I love, so I'm thinking a little bit about creating something that's bigger than all of us, if you understand. But it depends on, it's very much about time. We're all time poor, aren't we? We're all busy.
We are.
With a million and one things that we're trying to do. And then I have another idea, and this is a big one. And you always get your ideas in the middle of the night, don't you? And I had this, I was looking at all the things, all the roles I've played in my life, you know, and I am now on to 150 things that, you know, and I just thought,
I can believe that,
and it's going to get bigger. I know every morning I wake up and think, oh, what about that when you were an ice skater, or when you did, you know, when you did presentations. So all of those things, I'm thinking I could do a massive piece and say, this is what it's like to be female in this day and age. This is what I could do. A kind of rather than doing an autobiography, which I wouldn't have the patience with, I just thought, can I make that into a visual piece?
Visual one.
To see what happens. But I had other things I want people to join in.
Yeah, I have made a list of all the jobs I've had, and as a single parent, a mother, fluidity and multi.
Break it down. It's massive.
Did all of that. I like the idea of a visual representation because it's boring reading a list.
Of course,
it's
the
great.
list is endless. It's endless.
Life story would be different, wouldn't it?
It would be, because I can put on mine, believe it or not, refugee.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay. So, you know, and there will be things in there thinking, oh, I didn't know that, you know. So there are things that are quite interesting. So that is kind of in my mind there somewhere when I get the opportunity to get round to doing it.
Yeah. I think also it's a case of having a passion for things and needing to do it. You know, leaving a legacy for the world about who you are, because it's so easy for people to be forgotten. You know, in my family, we've got books that are written by old cousins of my father from the wars, you know, and these people, there's nothing about the person who wrote the book. There's a book and there's an aviation book, there's all sorts of things, but nothing of the person, and trying to track them down after generations is sad. So I'm quite committed to leaving my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren a recollection of the previous generations that I've experienced, plus also some kind of legacy about who I am, because they family pigeonhole you, and so do friends.
They do.
And we grow from that. So it'd be great to do what you're talking about. I think you must do that. You must.
I will. You know, it's quite a daunting task, because the more I think about it, the more roles come up. So, you know, I mean, I've been a newborn, a grandmother.
Yeah.
I'm also a daughter. All those things that you've been, and then all the other things that you've done in the work that you've done as well. Maybe you've been a counsellor or a friend, or you've been an enemy, or or you've been the angry one. You know, all of those things would all come in. And I think the longer you live, the more there is to do. So for me to write, I haven't got a very good memory. I haven't got the recall that some people have, but those would be triggers for me. And then people could say, so when did you do that?
Yeah.
You know, when did you abseil off the motorway bridge? Oh, okay. You know, so those sort of things, and that fills in the gaps for people, maybe. And then I suppose there are some things that you put in would be very personal, that people didn't know about you, and it depends whether you're prepared to reveal that or not.
Yes, that's a choice, isn't it?
It is.
It's a question of ourselves.
Yeah, but I should try it, and then I can imagine that it's something that if you that if you put it out as an anonymous woman, you could have an situation where other women could come along and they could join in, even by putting a little tick or a little star beside the thing this is relevant to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it could be quite a scary thing now.
Sometimes it's just getting started and keeping it small, and then not necessarily small in size, but keeping them to a certain limit to start with, keeping vision small, and then allowing it to expand and organically. So I'll wait, and I think we'll all be interested to find out what you do with that.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, our next thing that we're doing, and obviously Simon and I are both artists, and we do quite, we've done quite a lot of collaboration, which seems interesting considering that he's such a different kind of artist to me, which is probably a good thing because we're not rivals.
I'll just mention that there is an interview I've done with Simon. If anybody wants to look it up, if you go back into the playlist, you'll see Simon on the Come Eat With Me exhibition that he collaborated or contributed to along with myself and other artists in Rochester. And yeah, so he's a very different artist from you. So as we sum up then, how do you see your next steps then? What would you like to happen for yourself?
What would I like to happen? I'd like to have the time to do what I need to do. I'd like to move on to this thing about me that we've just been talking about. And I want to do something really big, but then I've got to have the space to do something really big. So it's about making decisions. I think it's probably just about setting aside time and thinking, right, you're going to do this now. The cutting out is fine. I can sit here all day, listen to music, read a book every now and again. I can cut and read a book. It's one of my multitasking skills. But it's actually just finding time to go up into the studio and think, right, do it. We have got open studios coming up, which is an incentive to sort of get things on the move, really.
Yeah, intriguing. Can't wait to find out more. And so how can the audience here today find you? Where would they look to have a look at your work, or to come and find you in a gallery, or come to your open studio?
I would suggest that the best way to find us is to come and visit us, and that's open studios. We're only going to be there at the weekends. That's the 6th and 7th and the 13th and 14th. And we'll be open from, I think, 11 until 4:30 because we've got stuff that we want to do after that. And it's an opportunity to go through both the whole house and Simon's studio, and I've got my own studio in the house, and talk to us and see the work. And then if people want to ask more questions, I might actually take up your suggestion and see if people want to do some workshops with me here. That would be a nice thing to do, just to see if there is the interest there. But that's the next thing that we've got up and coming, and that takes quite a bit of organising because I've got to tidy the whole house.
I've never known about an artist have a tidy house.
Oh no, but it's full of things. It's about, we use our all our walls to put all our work up on, so we have to do that. So that would be my next move. I'm due to start work on Thursday, so I've got less time over the summer than I normally would.
Yeah, so that's good. So can they catch you? Are you on Instagram or on Facebook?
I am on Instagram. It's just Bronach Rae Artist. I'm on Instagram.
Yeah, I'll put it in the comments and the description.
And you can find me on Facebook. And I've also got another Instagram account, which is Bronach. It's DRONACK, Queen of the Universe.
Oh. Right, so it's Bronach, Queen of the what?
Universe.
I thought that's what you said, but I wanted to make
yes. No, it's because when it came back, my grandson said to me, he said, it makes you sound like you're some sort of alien queen, and so it came from that. So I post things up, probably progress or photographs that I've taken that I might use. So that's where I'm at. I don't have a website because I haven't got the patience to manage all those things. I've got to be quite honest.
But not everybody wants to do anything that they don't want to do.
No,
different skill sets. But that's amazing. That's really good. So anyway, I'm going to thank you there then, because this has been very interesting, quite stimulating. Makes me want to go and grab a pair of scissors and start some out and thinking about images in a different way, just for fun. I don't want to necessarily be known as that kind of artist, but I would love to just have fun with it. You
would have fun. Come when we do open studios,
and I will come down.
Come and visit, but not on the 13th because I've got to work on the 13th. So unfortunately,
all right, not on the 13th. Okay, Brilliant. Well, thank you for sharing all that with us and your beautiful pieces. I mean, they're lovely, very, very pretty as well. And to know that there's so much depth in them. I mean, I have looked deeper into some of the things that I've been able to see online. And so I do recommend everybody, if you're in the Kent area and you can make it along to Open Studios, do so. If you can't and you're not so close by, maybe just have a look on the internet and just see. Just see what Bronach's doing. That is just beautiful. Thank you.
It's all right. We're a very welcoming house. So I always say, if you're passing, knock on the door. If we're in, we're in. It's an Irish thing. Okay, and that applies to you as well. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's lovely. All right then. Thank you very much, everybody. See you again soon.